I'm 91 years old now. 91. When you reach this age, people stop asking what your plans are. They stop asking what you're working toward. Most conversations become about what you've already done, who you've lost, what still hurts when it rains, and whether you're sleeping well. The strange thing is, none of that bothers me as much as I once thought it would. What bothers me is how clearly I can see my life now. Not the big moments, not the milestones people put in photo albums. I mean the ordinary days. The thousands of ordinary days I thought didn't matter very much while I was living them. Most people learn this too late. I certainly did. These days, I sit in a small chair by the window every morning. The house is quiet. Too quiet, if I'm being honest. My wife has been gone for 8 years. Sometimes I still catch myself looking toward the kitchen when I hear a sound. For a second, I forget. Then I remember. At 91, memory works in strange ways. I can remember a Tuesday afternoon from 1968 with perfect clarity. But sometimes I forget why I walked into a room. The past becomes sharper while the present grows softer. And when you spend enough time looking backward, certain truths begin to stand out. Truths that were invisible while life was busy. When I was young, I believed life was happening somewhere ahead of me. There was always another goal, another promotion, another year, another reason to postpone something. I thought happiness was waiting around the next corner. I thought peace was something you earned after all the hard work was done. I thought there would be more time. That's the sentence that follows me now. I thought there would be more time. When I was 26, I got my first serious job. I wasn't rich, far from it, but I was determined. I grew up during years when security mattered more than dreams. My father worked hard his entire life, and he taught me that a man showed love by providing. So that's what I did. I worked and worked and worked. At first it felt noble. My wife and I lived in a tiny apartment with thin walls and a leaking faucet. We laughed a lot back then. Some of our happiest conversations happened while washing dishes or sitting on a second-hand couch. We didn't have much money, but we had time. I didn't realize how valuable that was. Then came children, bills, responsibilities. Life began moving faster. I remember coming home late one evening when my oldest daughter was about 6. She was sitting on the stairs waiting for me. My wife told me she'd been fighting sleep because she wanted to show me a drawing she'd made. I looked at it. I told her it was beautiful. Then I said I had to finish some paperwork. I still remember the way her face changed. Not dramatically. She wasn't angry, just disappointed. A small disappointment. The kind that disappears in a few minutes. At least that's what I thought. But life isn't built from dramatic moments. It's built from small ones. Thousands of them. I missed more of those moments than I care to admit. Not because I didn't love my family. I loved them deeply. I simply believed there would always be another chance, another dinner, another weekend, another summer, another conversation. I kept choosing later. Later is a dangerous word. It sounds harmless. It sounds responsible. But later has a habit of becoming never. Years passed. My career improved. We bought a house. The children grew. From the outside, everything looked successful. People respected me. They complimented my work ethic. They called me dependable. I wore those compliments like medals. I thought I was doing everything right. But success has a way of distracting you from certain questions. Questions like, who are you becoming while you're busy achieving? What are you trading away? And is the exchange worth it? I didn't ask those questions. Not then. I was too busy. Everyone around me was busy too. That's what made it feel normal. I missed school plays. I missed ordinary afternoons. I missed chances to sit on the porch with my wife while we were still young enough to dream together. I told myself I was doing it for them. And in many ways I was. The bills got paid. The house stayed warm. The children had opportunities I never had. Those things mattered. They still matter. But here's something nobody told me. The people you love don't only need what you provide, they need your presence. And presence cannot be saved for later. I learned that slowly. Too slowly. My wife would sometimes ask me to take a walk with her after dinner. Just a walk. Nothing important. Sometimes I said yes. Too often I said no. I was tired. I had work to finish. I wanted to relax. The reasons always sounded reasonable. That's another thing I've learned. The choices that shape your regrets rarely look foolish in the moment. They look reasonable. That's why they're so dangerous. You don't notice the cost while you're paying it. One day our children were adults. The house became quieter. Then quieter still. Visits became occasional. Phone calls became shorter. Not because anyone stopped loving anyone. Life simply moved forward. That's what life does. I remember standing in my daughter's empty bedroom after she'd moved away. The room looked larger than I remembered. I stood there for a long time. That's when I first felt it. Not grief exactly. More like the realization that a chapter had closed without asking my permission. I had spent years believing those days would always be available in memory. But memory isn't the same thing as living, not even close. The years continued. Retirement came. I thought I would finally have time. Time for my wife. Time for myself. Time for all the things I'd postponed. And for a little while it seemed possible. We traveled. We drank coffee slowly. We sat together on quiet mornings. Simple things. Beautiful things. Things I should have valued decades earlier. Then she got sick. At first it seemed manageable. The doctors were optimistic. We were optimistic too. You cling to optimism when the alternative is too frightening to consider. But illness has a way of changing the shape of time. Suddenly, every day matters. Every conversation matters. Every ordinary moment becomes precious. I sat beside her hospital bed one afternoon while sunlight came through the window. She was asleep. I remember looking at her hands. Those hands that held our children, cooked our meals, reached for mine in the dark for more than 60 years. And all I could think was this: I wish I had been there more. Not physically. I was physically present for many years. I mean, truly there. Less distracted, less preoccupied, less convinced that tomorrow was guaranteed. She passed away a few months later. There are losses that divide a life into before and after. That was mine. People often ask what it's like to lose someone after so many years together. I never know how to answer. How do you explain the silence? How do you explain reaching for a person who isn't there? How do you explain becoming the sole keeper of memories that used to belong to two people? Some things cannot be explained, only lived. After she died, I found myself thinking about all the little moments, not anniversaries, not vacations, not major events. Little things. The walks we didn't take, the conversations I rushed through, the evenings I spent worrying about things that no longer matter. Funny, isn't it? The things that once seemed urgent have completely disappeared. The emails, the deadlines, the meetings, gone. Not one of them followed me into old age, but the people did. The memories did. The missed opportunities did. That's what stayed. At 91, I've buried friends, brothers, neighbors, people I once thought would always be around. Every year the circle grows smaller. You begin to understand how temporary everything is. Not in an intellectual way, in a personal way. You feel it. You wake up and realize that most of your life exists only in memory now. And memory is a fragile place to live. Still, I don't spend my days drowning in regret. Regret serves a purpose, but only to a point. After that, it becomes another way of wasting time. I've made peace with many things. Not because they stopped hurting, because fighting reality no longer changes it. The years are gone. My wife is gone. Many opportunities are gone, that's true. But other things remain. Gratitude remains. Love remains. Even now, especially now. I am grateful for the life I had. Grateful for the people who shared it with me. Grateful for ordinary mornings and familiar voices and all the years I was given. But gratitude and sorrow often live in the same room. I've learned that too. You can be thankful and heartbroken at the same time. The two are not enemies. If you're listening to me and you're younger than I am, and that's almost certainly true, I want to tell you something. Not as advice, just as an observation from a man who has been here a very long time. Pay attention to the ordinary parts of your life. They are not interruptions, they are the life. The dinner table, the walk around the block, the phone call you almost postpone, the person waiting for you to look up from whatever seems important. These things disappear faster than you think. Not today, not tomorrow, but one day you'll turn around and realize an entire season of your life has ended, and you won't remember the work you were rushing to finish. You'll remember who was standing beside you. You'll remember laughter from another room. You'll remember a voice you can no longer hear. Most people learn this too late because life feels endless when you're in the middle of it. I understand. I felt the same way. At 30, 90 seemed impossible. At 50, it seemed distant. At 70, it seemed unlikely. And yet here I am, 91, sitting by a window, watching morning light fall across an empty chair, thinking about all the years that passed while I was busy planning for the future. The future arrived, then it left, just like everything else. If this means something to you, hold on to it for a little while. Not because I have special wisdom, only because I've had more time to see the ending than most people. And from where I sit now, looking back across 9 decades, one truth stands above all the others. The people you love are the real measure of your life. Not what you built, not what you earned, not what others thought of you. Just the people, their faces, their voices, their presence. One day those things become priceless. One day they become everything. The room is getting darker now. Evening comes earlier than it used to. Or maybe it only feels that way. At my age, I'm not afraid of the end anymore. What I feel is something quieter, an awareness, a tenderness toward the life I've lived, the beautiful parts, the painful parts, the mistakes, the blessings, all of it. And if I could sit across from the younger man I used to be, I wouldn't tell him to work harder. I wouldn't tell him to worry more. I wouldn't tell him to chase one more achievement. I'd simply tell him to stay at the table a little longer. Take the walk. Listen carefully. Look around. Because someday, at 91 years old, those ordinary moments will be the ones you miss the most. And by then, you'll finally understand that they were never ordinary at all.